All right, everybody. So welcome to the session. We'll just officially here get underway. We're going to spend about 45 minutes or thereabouts together. We're going to talk about HPE Aruba networking. We're going to talk data center. Here, I'll just go ahead and I'll pull up the agenda that I have in mind for us all. I'll do a brief introduction of myself here while we get underway. I'm Jason Furnick. I'm a consulting engineer with HPE Aruba networking. Oftentimes we abbreviate that as Aruba. I've been around the organization now 17 years and travel across the country working with customers, partners on different technology discussions, deployments, and projects. In terms of the presentation today, I divided the 45 minutes up into two different sections or chapters, if you will, just to give you a sort of a preview of what's coming up and, of course, the order in which it is coming. I do encourage any participation throughout the presentation. Go ahead and put up your hand there. I'll do my best to get to you and sort of stop things in the tracks and answer whatever question that you may well have. Or if you want to participate one-on-one, please come and see us in the booth out there on the show floor. We've got a nice little F1 simulator, race car simulator there. You can try your luck at that while we talk a little networking. All right, so with that, let's get on underway here. Section number 1, introduction. Just a little brief who's Aruba. Not a huge history lesson there, but a very much a compressed version of what's up in Aruba at present day. You might have some familiarity with Aruba in the marketplace, or certainly HPE. Both of us been around several decades at this point in time. So just give everybody a level set so we're working from the same song sheet, as it were. And then we'll get right into the data center itself and really sort of set the table as to why we're here in the first place. Why do we care about the data center? Everything's going cloud, right? The data center perhaps is dead. And yesterday's news, well, we'll discover the realities around that. All right, so let's get underway here. This is everything that HPE makes today, right? A lot of different technologies. Find your favorite ones in there. I'll find my favorite technology right there in orange. HPE Aruba Networking became part of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, or HPE organization, more than a handful of years now, almost 9 years ago. Right, 9 years in the making in terms of being one organization. Over those 9 years, we've integrated technologies together, and what you see there is the HPE technology stack. So whether you're familiar with HPE from a compute and storage, or in this case, the networking perspective, at the end of the day, it's all really one solution. That's becoming more and more true through the advent of something called GreenLake. I'm very confident you've heard about that concept before. It's a mix of technologies, financial models, as a service capabilities that we have as HPE. All right, the networking stack from Aruba, in case you're not familiar, I'm going to show it to you. It only has 5 components, nice and easy to understand and really digest. I'm going to organize those 5 components as follows. First of all, connectivity down there on the bottom of the technology stack. We're very active in all kinds of different technologies. We started out certainly as the Wi-Fi guys in 2002. So 22 years ago, we had one mission, make the world's best Wi-Fi that was scalable as well as secure. And we continue on that mission today, 22 years later. However, we've added some additional components, as you see there, some of them homegrown, some of them by merger and acquisition. Above the connectivity layer in the Aruba technology model is the security layer. Security layer, of course, all your fan favorites up in there, but zero trust, segmentation, and then some new ones, some AI. First time I said AI today. You can mark that on the bingo card, of course. Probably another 20 times today we'll get into that. But things like behavior analytics and understanding exactly what's happening on the network and then reacting. So introducing automation orchestration at the security layer, something we got into about a decade ago, and it, again, accelerates through present day. Technology stack member number 3, or building block number 3 up there. This one's always a fan favorite. That's the operations layer. This is where we get visibility. This is where we do configuration management, firmware management, and the like. So much like in the networking OSI model, right, we've got a few less layers in our model, nice and simplified, 3 different layers: connectivity, security, and operations. Those are your takeaways so far. You can start anywhere on an Aruba journey. Today we're going to talk a lot about data center. So we're going to talk about that bottom layer connectivity. I'm going to mix in some security, and you guessed it, we're going to talk operations as well. Now, I mentioned there were 5 components of the Aruba technology stack. You only see 3 of them there. The other 2 are hiding right now. I'm going to bring them into focus. We have a tech ecosystem. So we have interoperability. One thing that both Aruba and HPE believe very strongly in is being open interoperability with others. So we don't try to build absolutely everything and reinvent the wheel and sell you video cameras, phones, light bulbs, and so on. Others do that. They do it very well, right? In the marketplace, we want to partner with those industry-leading technologies, whether they're IT, IoT, OT, and so on. So tech ecosystem from Aruba, 850 different partners and growing. So no one has a bigger tech ecosystem than us. And of course, that's a good thing because it gives you flexibility and choice in terms of selecting complementary solutions. And the last piece over here, there's that GreenLake word for the second time today. GreenLake is really the network as a service capability as well as our cloud capability as HPE Aruba networking that we have access to. So you can, of course, take all the technology that we're going to talk about today. You can buy them outright in terms of a CapEx model. You can translate them or transform them into an operational or OpEx model if that is desirable to you. And that's in the form of GreenLake, as you see on the right-hand side. All right, so let's go a little further here. Where do we stand in the marketplace? That's a Gartner Magic Quadrant, in case you've never seen one of those before. I imagine most of you, if not all of you, have. These come out each and every year in different technology areas. What you see on the left-hand side, this is the overall networking space. So oftentimes called the enterprise networking space. So this is involving, of course, your wired networks, your wireless networks, right? How do they operate? How do you secure them? What's the overall experience? And you can see I just, my handwriting on there, I put the big green rectangle around us over there. Something is interesting and exciting in the marketplace. We are in the process of acquiring Juniper Networks as well. So you can take that nice big green box there in terms of leadership and extend it around that organization as well. So quite an exciting time for us. Leadership up in that quadrant, top right-hand corner is where you want to be. That's where every vendor wants to be. We've been there 18 years in a row. So 18 times over and over and over again. If we look at a different way to, different lens, if you will, to look at the networking market space, here's a different industry analyst here looking at only the data center networking space now. So really focused in on a specific technology. And what do we notice here? Once again, I've put my handwriting on here. There's my big green rectangle, all right, borrowing from the HPE logo, of course. Again, leadership. Right, so I like to jokingly say we're doing something right, we're doing something consistently right, and what do I mean by right? It's not just in the analyst's eyes, it's in the market's eyes, right? The customers and the partner community. All right, so of course we have to find out what that is, right? That's why we're all gathered here today, and we'll do that over the next half an hour together. All right, state of the data center market, is it dead, is it dying, or is it growing? Sort of giving you some hints here, right? The reports of the death of the data center market, right? All we hear about is cloud all the time. And it might be a surprise or a shock to know that the data center market is actually growing. I'm going to give you some numbers, and of course, different analysts are going to give you slightly different numbers. I tried to find an average out there in the past week of consensus, right? It's up and to the right, as that orange arrow there shows you. Let me give you a number. Look on the bottom here of this slide. You see the compound annual growth rate, or CAGR. What's the CAGR down there? It's double digits. Still growing double digits, so not too bad for a patient in the ICU on death's doorstep. So what's happening? Why do we still see growth in data center networking? Why do we care about this, right? Why should we upgrade our skill set? Why should we focus company resources on this? Well, simply for these reasons over on the right-hand side. I've highlighted two that I think are the most important of the four trends out there, or the four reasons that the CAGR is that double-digit year-on-year growth all the way up past the year 2030. You see something there, generative AI or Gen AI. There we go, one second, third time we've talked about AI today. Everybody's sort of over-rotating around this capability. We're early days, early innings on this, believe it or not. The first AI, of course, was built into the Aruba product right around 2015, 2016. So we've been at it nearly a decade already. How time flies. But there's much more to come, right? For every organization out there, small, medium, large, the hyperscalers, right? Everybody's chasing this AI dream. In order to do that, you just need more horsepower, right? We need more ports, we need more pipe, more CPUs, more GPUs, more of everything, as the saying goes. And then alongside the generative Gen AI craze, there's also this movement towards security. Right? Security used to be the problem or the sort of the headache of the maybe the financial community. We work with a lot of banks or financial institutions. They've been worried about security for decades now. Now, of course, it's everybody's problem and everybody's headache in present day. So we need to rethink how we're designing the data center. We need to come up with new techniques. It's not always about throwing more and more and more pipe at things, although that is helpful. But we want to use the pipe more efficiently and so on. All right. So with that, let's get into the technology discussion here. I'm going to start out with some challenges. I'm going to sort of level set the table. I'll ask you to participate, of course. If you want to, if you feel that you want to chime in, please, by all means, go ahead. I went ahead and I put together these 6 challenges. There we go. Put them all up on the board in terms of categories of conversations or sections of conversations that we have literally day in and day out as Aruba out there with customers and partners. And what do we see up there? I don't think there's anything that's a real big shocker. Perhaps the one in the bottom right-hand corner is the newest entrant. We hear a lot about that in the media. If I just focus on that one, right? More power. Data centers need a lot of power, need a lot of cooling. We need to revisit nuclear power plants, right? There's all kinds of different predictions out there. But certainly if the industry or the spend within the networking industry is growing at double digits for the next 6-7 years and well beyond that, yes, those needs are very real. And they kind of go counter, of course, to what the world is trying to do, which is to clean up the power industry and so on. So what do we do about that? Well, we've got some sustainability capabilities that I'll talk about at the tail end of the presentation. But before we get there, we're going to talk about what do we see here? Performance, visibility, security, right? Sounds wonderful. I want more of everything, right? More performance, more visibility, more security. Anyone not want more of those things? Right? Maybe the security piece, we go, we're indifferent. I'm secure enough. They'll attack the neighbors, right? Maybe that's the philosophy. Or we might, of course, be well aware if we tighten things down too much, then things slow down, right? There is very much a danger of buying or implementing too much security at the expense of performance. So we really want to hit this sweet spot or Goldilocks spot here in terms of the overall network build-out. We see effort there. I got a nice little funny picture of that individual. I gotta commend him, right? He's working smart there, right? He's not overworking himself. How about automation, orchestration? Can we or should we do things differently than we've done in prior years, prior generations? We should, right? Well, we don't always want to rely on 5 or 10 or 20-year-old practices. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do and how you can do it in your own organizations. And of course, TCO, the last piece here. We need to be able to afford all this wonderful stuff. It's always a challenge out there, right? We want to go and move forward. We want performance. We want scalability. We want security, but can the budget handle it, right? All right, so let's get into the first topic, performance. Get a level set here. What's all the buzz about scalability, where we're getting more of everything at the bottom of the stack? In my this is a simplified data center, by the way. 3 layers here, right? The users, if you will, are on the bottom. Users in a data center, they're different than users on the edge of the network, right? They're not humans, they're servers, right? They're applications down there at the edge of the data center network. They connect into this leaf, right? Leaf is the first connection point, and then up to something called the spine up in here. You may guess or sort of interpolate here, Aruba, of course, has a solution for both the leaf and the spine. I'm going to show you the models, tell you all about them. It's not going to be a data sheet bingo, as I call it out there. So today is high level to get you acquainted with what we have on offer, why we do what we do, let you know there is a plan, right? There is a strategy here. And of course, your voice matters. So if you see something missing throughout the presentation, feel free to approach us either during or after and discuss what it is we are missing the boat on. All right, so the idea is we do need to have more scale than ever before because there's just more in terms of that edge of the data center network. All the way down the last piece there, look at that bottom arrow. You see something called hardware acceleration. Hardware acceleration from this aspect, you hear about an acronym out there called a GPU, right? NVIDIA being sort of the poster child for GPU. Very strong partnership as HPE with NVIDIA and also one of their competitors, AMD, both of which make GPUs. I'll talk about that a little later today, but they're really a game changer in terms of the industry themselves because of the performance increase that we can get, right? So we can run processes, applications, services faster than ever before on those servers if we use hardware acceleration, but it doesn't much help if the network cannot keep up. So that's how they sort of go hand in hand and drive the networking industry. So we're happy for the AMDs and the NVIDIAs of the world and the GPU technology to be far and wide. From a scalability perspective, how do we address this as HPE Aruba? Here you go. We came out with this switch, okay, part numbers here, no need to memorize them. They're all out there on the website. There's a product matrix, etc. I'm going to simplify things by saying this was our first build in what's called top of rack or TOR marketplace. So think of this is what you'd put at that edge of the data center itself. So in every rack, you can put one or more of these in, and you get the performance that you see up there on the screen. Think of that performance up there. That's terabit per second networking. If you're not a data center person, that seems like awful fast, right? Terabits, who would need that? Well, as it turns out, many people have already consumed this technology. That switch is about 5 years old at this point in time. So we're really looking at technology that was pretty new and exciting 5 years ago. If you look at what's new and exciting at present day, there's just a wee bit small scalability increase. Pretty much a 4x increase, right? If we do the math there, round numbers, we'll round up a little bit for sake of argument here. Got about a 4x increase in speeds and feeds or scalability just over these past 5 years. So that's Gen AI craze or the GPUs and the NVIDIAs of the world, they really are driving us further and faster than ever before. So tough to keep up with technology that's only even 5 years old. Now that being said, as you go faster and faster, guess what? You need to pay more and more. Not quite 4 times the price, but it is still a pricey technology to run at those speeds. So for folks that don't need these speeds, we've also been busy filling in the left-hand side of this chart. Let's just fill that all in together. We have lower speed platforms. So we've got the very high speed, the very low speed, and then we have the medium or middle speeds in there. So we really have a platform to suit any type of use case that you would have today, and we think into the foreseeable future. They have different, of course, budget requirements. Power requirements are basically equal. Okay, space requirements are certainly equal, so you can mix and match these things in where they are required. The operating system is the exact same. The command line is the exact same. The fabrics that are produced, we're going to talk fabrics today when we talk automation and orchestration. They're all the same or compatible. And last but not least, the orchestration platform or the operations layer, right? The operations layer and for that matter, the security layer, they're all the same as well. So we really came up with this approach here to just make, I call them sometimes widgets. In this concept or context, they are data center switches, right? 1 rack unit high. They all do the same thing, just at different speeds. Okay, any questions so far? Straightforward, I imagine, but good? All right. All right, so it's a very familiar command line interface, by the way. If you're a CLI guru out there, no problems, right? It's a Cisco-like interface. So we borrowed their 1,200-page command line guide and really translated it or copy and pasted it as close as we could without getting the lawyers too excited. So very familiar territory there. You can control these devices from the cloud or on premises through APIs, through CLI, however you want to drive these, you go ahead and you do that. Okay, so very, very friendly, if you will, to put into any organization. Of course, we have a simulator on all of these, so if you want to kick the tires or see exactly what this environment looks like, we can get you a virtual copy of these, and you can play to your heart's content. All right, so with that, something else rather than scalability, the latest, one of the later models of switches that we just put out is not concerned with going more and more terabits a second, but it's all about latency. You ever have this statement from a user? Maybe in the office, right? Maybe even at home, right? The kids, the spouse, right? This is taking forever. X, whatever it is, let's say Netflix, right? Netflix is taking forever to load, and of course you approach them and you say, show me, and when they show you, it's a matter of, perhaps as this example would reveal, it's a matter of a few seconds. That is the reality today, right? The reality today is a few seconds can be defined as forever. So any type of delays that we can get rid of in the network, the better. One way we can get rid of delay, of course, is build faster hardware. Another way we can do that is build larger packet buffers, right, and different techniques within the queuing structure of the software itself, and so on. So, of course, we do all of the above to solve not only faster pipe, but also pipe with less latency or delay. What's the big deal in the data center? It's a little different than you encounter in my simple Netflix example. In the Netflix example, right, there's a tap on the screen or a click of the button. There's one transaction, and the end user is waiting for that. Well, things are amplified in a data center setting because there's a lot of back and forth, right? In this simple example, 150 different transactions to execute one action, somewhat of a maybe a sophisticated example, right? But it really is different than one transaction. And we wait in the data center. There's literally tens of thousands of transactions happening at any given moment. So every little bit of delay that we can remove, we're way better off than we have been in the past. All right. So next topic, we're enough on scalability. Let's talk visibility. Anyone want less visibility in the network, or do we want some more? I think we want more. Correct answer. Yeah, not rehearsed at all. Yes. So we want more visibility in the network, but we don't want it to cost an arm and a leg or take a whole lot of effort to go ahead and achieve that. So what I have in store for you is I think you're gonna like it. It's a real simplified way to do visibility in the network without, again, breaking the budget or inflating the TCO. So I've got two lines on this graph here, or on this, again, simplified data center. I have one that goes up and down, or the vertical line, sometimes called north and south. And then I have the horizontal line, oftentimes called east and west, or lateral, right, depending on your perspective. Anyone want to shout out how much traffic in the data center is east and west versus north and south? Take a guess out there. Round number. I'll give you the numbers. Here we go. 80%. 80% east and west, 20% north and south. That's your average data center. Of course, your mileage is going to vary depending on what you're trying to achieve out there. But that's an eye-opener for many. And again, it's reinforcement that the data center is far from dead. Right? Why do I make that statement? Well, if the cloud was all that and a bag of chips, as they say, we would have the reverse situation happening. And of course, data centers would then be deemed to be not all that useful, right? If it was 80-20 the other way around. Why does this matter? Well, it matters from this lens. If we want to get visibility, we really need to focus down in here, right? We don't want to just do the visibility at the edge or the perimeter of the network, or the so-called north-south, because we're going to be missing a lot of the traffic, right? The vast majority of the traffic. And so instead, the sweet spot, or the best place to do visibility, we think, is right here, right at that the leaf layer of the network itself, right where we sit. we've built in visibility into all of those platforms that we've previously seen. So the small, the medium, the large, we can do visibility at the same time as we are increasing capacity and minimizing the delay. All right, so we integrate it right in there. You don't pay extra for it, right? It's not a license. It's not something funny that, oh, I forgot to buy it, and now I'm without it. You don't need to drop down into the command line, although if you're most familiar with that or most comfortable with that, you go right ahead. But you can abstract the visibility, and I'm going to show you the platforms in which you can do that very shortly. All right, so we go ahead and we look at that visibility at the leaf side of the network, or leaf layer of the network. And what are we looking at? This is my sort of comical version of a server out there. Anyone ever have one of those back in the 90s? Right? Yeah, my first one was $2,500 in 1990. Pricey. How far we've come, right? But in the data center, it's not uncommon, of course, to have virtualized servers running on a physical server. I think, again, quite obvious to all of us here. And I've, again, simplified and shown, what do we have here? 8 different virtual servers on one physical server. Pretty simple network. If life was only this simple, in the average data center, there's not dozens of servers, not hundreds. There can be, of course, thousands of virtualized servers across the environment. And the challenge is you need to have visibility to each one of those ideally, and you need to assess their health, right? Because at the end of the day, there's end users and end user processes, right, that are connected to each and every one of these. Big challenge to find out, hey, and it's kind of an easier challenge if I go back for a moment and sort of go back to this world. I think everybody's done a reasonable job to get this far, to say, hey, is there a server there? Yes. Is it up? Yes. Is it healthy? I think so, right? We do a less sort of a worse job, if you will, and it's not due to lack of trying. It's just due to lack of tools, perhaps budget, perhaps time in the day to get there on the rainy day, to say on a server-by-server basis, how do things actually look, okay? Instead of sort of going to these extents, right, to proactively look at the server health or proactively look at the health overall, we tend to rely on this. So I'm just going to build this one out. Maybe you get a laugh or two here. If you rely on this character or this character in your organization, you would not be alone in this room, I'm sure. Oftentimes we have discussions out there. I ask how the network's operating. I get the following, sort of a play on this. No news is good news, Jason. Nobody's called in today. The tickets have slowed down, right? They tell me if there's a problem. So until someone or something tells me there's a problem, it's blue skies, right? Life is good. And I appreciate the optimism and all, but we can do a lot better. We can do some proactive visibility on the network to understand how things are operating and not have reliance on these folks. All right, so we want to be proactive. We want to have some tools to do that. I'm going to show you the tools right now. We've got 3 in total to review here, and these are just pieces of software, okay? So nothing for you to go ahead and learn that's all that complicated. They are sophisticated tools, but they're very simplified in terms of how they represent what's going on in the network. So the first one you see on the left-hand side, something called Aruba Central. Aruba Central is our cloud-based platform, 8 years in the making. Anyone using Aruba Central today in their networks? It has multiple purposes. It's for data center, it's for edge, it's for campus, it's for SD-WAN, it's for wireless, it's for absolutely everything that Aruba does today and into the future. Okay, so all roads lead to that platform. We're quite excited. As of October, a couple weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, it went through a very drastic renovation. So if you've ever used Aruba Central in years past, over these past, say, 7.9 years, it looked a lot different than it does today over these past 3 weeks. So we're in a new era with Aruba Central, and again, all roads lead there. If you're not ready for the cloud, right, for whatever reason, you go, yeah, cloud's not for me. We're talking data center after all, so it's kind of ironic that you'd manage your data center from the cloud, isn't it? Kind of like managing the cloud from the data center. Yeah, but it is a thing out there. Aruba Central, that's the most popular way to manage networks today. we're approaching well over 4 million devices out there, so network devices, Aruba devices in that cloud today. Alongside that one, you've got an on-premises option. You see it right there on the right-hand side, something called Aruba Fabric Composer, sometimes or oftentimes abbreviated as AFC. So that's a different option for you on premises. It is a different product. So right away we might say, ooh, I don't know if I want 2 different products in the network. Remember, you're not having 2 different products. You're selecting either the cloud approach or the on-premises approach, whatever suits you best. You can switch at any time. All right, the last platform I have to explain here in terms of visibility right here, something called OpsRamp. Anyone familiar with OpsRamp at all? All right, OpsRamp, I'll just level set everybody, 15-second commercial on this. This is an acquisition that the parent company of Aruba, so HPE, did last year, and it's a third-party management company or third-party management capability that sits up in the cloud, and it allows or enables you to manage hundreds of different solutions. Okay, so if you have a multi-vendor or mixed environment, it's a nice tool in the toolbox, and that it can speak to all these different vendors at one time and put everything in a common data lake and common dashboard. This common data lake and common dashboard plugs into the Aruba technology that I mentioned on the previous slide, so they work together. All right, so 3 different software platforms, 2 are in the cloud, 1 on premises. You don't need all 3. Okay, you don't need all 3. You might want to have 2 out of the 3 if you have a multi-vendor network. If you have an entire end-to-end Aruba network, go with just 1, right? So it's 1 or 2, not 3. All right, so moving along, let's talk some security now. Get right in here. Security itself, do we want a full trust network or zero trust? Right? Hey, we're a little bit maybe tone deaf to these terms. I'll make it a little fun. Do we want this style of network? No. I was jokingly talking about the trust fall a little earlier today with some of my colleagues. You'd never catch me doing that, right? Not a chance. Instead, we want to employ zero trust. I think we do a reasonable job of that at the edge of the network in most cases, right? I hope so at this point in time, right? The auditors are pretty good at flagging if you're not doing these things at the edge of the network. The auditors are coming around now and they're saying, okay, you've got your edge all secured, you got the wireless side done, you got your wire done, awesome. And before they give you an A+ on the report card, they say, give me the keys to the data center. And we go in there and we find sort of yesteryear's security techniques in there, right? We can do a better job in there. Why haven't we done it? Again, usually lack of budget, lack of time, and so on. But the technologies are now available to go ahead and extend that zero trust throughout the data center. Okay, so please do that. How about segmentation? Segmentation, you know, this crowd I'm sure understands the concept around segmentation. Lower or limit your blast radius whenever possible. Right? So if a bad actor gets in or a process goes awry, we don't have a bigger problem on our hands. The idea is to limit our headaches, limit our pain points, limit the access to things from the bad actors and so on. Segmentation, been around a long time. How do we do segmentation at the edge of the network? Typically the VLAN, right? The VLAN's been sort of our best friend for many, many years. Static VLANs, I'm sure folks are familiar with those. Dynamic VLANs, maybe we layer in something called role-based access control, right? Or intent-based networking with all kinds of fancy things at the edge of the network. Well, we can do those same techniques or those same capabilities in the data center itself. We just use an updated or different technology called VXLAN. And when we use VXLAN, we get much more scalability than VLANs offer, although we achieve a very similar result of segmentation in the network. You may guess by now, Aruba's active in both of those technologies for many, many years. So if you want to use VLANs, you want to use VXLAN, you want to automate all of that with software, you go right ahead on any of the platforms that I've mentioned. When we deploy security in the environment, if we do want to sort of step up our game and deploy some, let me just build this all out here. All right, there we go, one more. All right, what have I drawn here? Our simplified data center, we want to employ security, right? We think zero trust, good idea, segmentation equally good idea. We want to get there. We want to follow these best practices. Here's how it's commonly done. We see this again week in and week out as we're around different customers and discussions. And what's the challenge here? I've got the security, right? I've got the zero trust taken care of. I have the segmentation taken care of. What do I have here? There's a couple of challenges with this way of doing things. And think of any here. Look at where the traffic's flowing, right? It's flowing rack to rack. So it's going throughout that east and west vector, or that lateral vector of the data center. Inefficient. That might strike you, right? I'm leaving one rack. I'm leaving rack A. I'm going to all the way over to E. So I go A to E. There you go. And then E back to A, right? I've got this sort of mess of all these different transactions. Even though they're very high speed, they're very low latency or delay. It's inefficient at the end of the day. What if I could do this? Let's change this diagram up, and let's go ahead this time. And we're simply going to build security in at that top of the rack, or that leaf layer. Okay, we'll get rid of that need to have that centralized security component. We're going to improve efficiency, improve service delivery, maintain security. We're also going to spread some risk out here, right? Because we don't have that single point of failure in the network. Because if that security node went down in diagram number 1, we're having a real bad day across the entire data center. In this model, right, much lower, much smaller blast radius. Now, when we implement security across the top of the rack, we can do this in any one of the models of switches that you've seen so far. But I'm going to show you one additional switch that I haven't so far. It has a different name. It's a different name than maybe any of us are used to, other than the Aruba employees here up front. Something called the Distributed Network Services Switch. It is a partnership. So remember those 850 different partnerships that we have as HPE Aruba. One of them is with AMD, and AMD has a division called Pensando. Pensando makes GPUs that do security. So we've had a partnership with them a little over 5 years at this point, and we have this product to show for it. So we have one of those switches in the lineup. You didn't previously see this one. This one is a sort of a variant, if you will, of that technology that we previously discussed together. So same OS, same CLI, same management platform, same everything. It just has 2 additional GPUs. So these 2 GPUs, what do? They're not magic after all. They do hardware-based security. So it's that hardware acceleration that we see on the server side of the network now brought into the network switch. You might think, well, that's a great idea. Doesn't everybody do that? Everybody does not do that. Right? The firewall vendors, I can say they've got the message that they need GPUs in the product to speed up security. The networking vendors, those traditional ones, they haven't yet got the memo. We're the first ones to do this. It's a very, very interesting platform. And it gives us performance, so it gives us that scale, and at the same time giving us that distributed security at the top of each and every rack. All right, so that's security for us. There is one other topic in terms of security. We're going to use that wonderful newer updated capability called AI to look for anomalies in the network. I'm going to ask you to find the anomaly in the following picture. Okay, we're going to do 2 pictures together. Here you go. Here's the training one. Anyone? Yeah, there's a sort of an Aruba flavored fish there right in the middle, right? Or the poisson, yes? All right, good stuff. That's good. All right, I'm going to give you a second picture, and when you find the anomaly, shout it out, okay? A little participation here for you as we wind down the last 7 minutes or so. Ready? First one wins. Some kind of prize. We'll get you in that F1 simulator. We'll give you something at the booth. Here we go. Here we go. A little harder this time. Anyone? Doggy, yeah. Woof, woof, woof. Kind of cool. Yeah, so the point there, right, just to make light of this, make it fun today. The idea is looking for anomalies or behavior sort of differences. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not too easy. It is that domain of AI. AI is pretty good at looking through patterns. From the network perspective, it's all about gathering data, right? Gathering data, establishing a baseline, and then poking through it or picking through the haystack to find that needle. So find the spike or the drop-off or, hey, what's different, right? What's different in the traffic pattern? And in this context, it's really down in the data center. But we also do this at the edge of the network. We do this on the SD-WAN. We do this on the wireless. We do this on the wire technologies that we have. So it's something that we call client insights at the edge of the network. So if you're familiar with our edge product, that's exactly what we're looking at here. And we're really just characterizing what's going on in the network without probes, without span ports, without extra anything, right? We already know what traffic's in the network. We already know what devices are on the network. They're plugged into us after all, right? So let's go ahead and send telemetry into our management platforms to go ahead and assess what's going on and then find those anomalies automatically. All right, 2 more quick topics here, I think, and we're done. So working smart. Anyone want to do more in the day, right? There's no more days in the week, hours in the day. We need to work smart, not just harder. So first thing we do to make sure you can work smart, everything we do is based on IEEE protocols, IEEE standards. You're not going to find any secret sauce from Aruba that is based on some esoteric protocol you've never heard of, and you got to Google or go to Wikipedia to find out, right? Others guilty of that. Very easy to learn, right? Because we're just using the protocols that you're using today. And remember, I mentioned the command line is very similar to what you're used to. The protocols running over the wire, again, very similar, if not the same, as to what you're using today. Command line, there's a quick look at the command line. I know it doesn't do it justice. If you want to see more, look at the 1,200-page CLI guide. Look at that simulator that I mentioned earlier. But there's a better way to do things. Take your, say, more complicated data center network, introduce this. Automation orchestration, what's that called in the data center? That's the fabric. It's also called the fabric, of course, over the SD-WAN network, so it can be oftentimes confusing. It's the same concept, although some perhaps different technologies that are used. The one used in the data center, EVPN VXLAN, much more standardized than perhaps what's done over the SD-WAN and some vendors' products. In terms of how we do automation and orchestration with Aruba, spoiler alert, it's the same 3 platforms that we had mentioned before. So all roads lead to that Aruba Central, the Fabric Composer, and the OpsRamp platform. So same guidance here. You pick one or more of these things, and you're doing your visibility as well as your orchestration at the same time. All right. No additional license to do that, so it's really pay one price and get all the functionality. Nice and simple. All right, winding down here, TCO. TCO, maybe we worry about it in an organization. Maybe we're just a, true architect, technologist. We want the best for our company, our organization, and sort of money's no object to us. But it is the focus of somebody. So, what do we do in terms of the budget? So I'll just build this all out here. Right-sizing the product, you saw that earlier, right? The small, medium, large. Don't buy something that's way too large for you, right? You can get the same experience whether you're a small organization, medium, or large. You can mix and match as use cases or demands change. In terms of the OpEx, what's OpEx all about in this world? It's about subscriptions, the S word. Everybody has subscriptions today, including us. What's different about our subscriptions? We don't have 5 of them. We don't have 4 of them. We don't have 3 of them. We have 2. Right? We have a foundation and an advanced is how we go to market. There's about 90% of functionalities in foundation, leaving about the remainder 10% in advanced. Okay, nice and simplified, easy to understand. When in doubt, buy the foundation. You got your 90% right without even looking at a data sheet. Okay, nice and simplified. Imagine you had a product, you have 5 different licenses, very tough to navigate. Not impossible, but I think you'd agree you can make mistakes. We don't want anyone making mistakes and missing out. So that's why we do what we do. Network as a service, that's always an option down there. The world famous GreenLake now for the 3rd time today, right? Again, it's option. We don't need to do network as a service everywhere 24/7. But if it makes sense for you, have a discussion with us. We can again, transform all that CapEx, all those subscriptions into one easy, painless monthly payment, if that's what you're after. Again, someone in your organization may love to hear that. Last topic here, sustainability. More and more power is how we hear about that. The data center, right? It's evil, all right? At some point, people are not going to want them in their backyard, right? At that point, people still want data centers. That's good stuff, right? We need more of them. Sustainability from a Aruba perspective. Again, I've got a lot of sort of words up there, but we take it very seriously. It's not something we started a year or two ago. We've been at this many, many, many years now. Everything from product design to where it's manufactured, how we box it up, right? The components that we use, minimizing hazardous materials. We don't just comply with the law and that's it. We really want to go above and beyond, and we have a tagline within the company, right? A force for good, right? We really want to do a good job with the planet, so you'll find that throughout any of the Aruba products that you do purchase. So we oftentimes, in I would say the last 18 months, I've seen it in every single RFP that's out there. This little sustainability section tends to be bonus points at this point, but I think we're pivoting, and soon it will be a mandatory section on each and every purchasing decision. Good stuff. And then back to our friend the Green Lake one last time. What's so special about Green Lake? Well, we can manage all the sustainability stuff for you. So at the same time, we're keeping the lights on in terms of the network itself, right? Managing things and moves, adds, changes, all that kind of wonderful stuff. We also have a mindful eye on the sustainability of the product. So we're looking at life cycle. When we take it out of your premises, we may, of course, deploy it elsewhere on Earth. So the whole sort of concept of upcycling, right? Not just managing the recycling aspect, but also sending it so it can have a second life somewhere. All right, so that's Green Lake. And that brings me to the conclusion today, everybody. So we talked about performance, visibility, security, as you see up there. We want more of everything. We want to achieve that without breaking the budget or without getting more hours in the day or more people on the team, because those things are simply not realities for most, if not everybody here. And then at the end of the day, we want to do a little bit of good for the planet itself and have a sort of the mind's eye on sustainability as well as the technology. So with that, I'm going to go to the thank you slide here. I am out of time. I'll hang around outside the room if you want to talk further, but thanks for your attendance today.